Hey YouTube, Cyclone with a gaming commentary video about the RPG landscape coming out soon. And I'm going to try and make this brief here, but we're entering a fairly pivotal moment. Path of Exile is coming out with its new patch, Arch Nemesis. And then we have a big titan of a game coming out that's already established in Korea called Lost Ark. If you know anything about Lost Ark or the MMO space, this is a pretty significant game in the East, and it's now getting a Western global launch. This this post, it's making fun of it, but the two and then the little inexperienced boy, um, or the average POE player. I was also thinking about that. Um, all these games have no life nerds playing them, all right, or will. Why? Why is the a lot of teenagers and college age students are the ones these games cater to because they have more time on their hands. Older people like us, we're past the point where we can invest our entire lives into these games. It's just not worth the time, quite frankly. Um, Having jobs and families and everything, like, when you get older, you have to prioritize certain things over games. Not that you can't enjoy games, but a lot of these games push the amount of time you spend as really the only way to get ahead. Path of Exile in particular is notorious for needing thousands of hours to feel any form of progress, but then they put you in this 3 month cycle where you have to repeat the campaign and do the trading and all this shit all over again and again and again. I said in a past video, hamster on a wheel. It really is. You are running a wheel every 3 months. And look, I want to talk about this topic because I've heard a lot of people saying Path of Exile has always had competition and it's never died out. In fact, it's only grown in population. Okay, fair point. But let's look at the charts. Okay, let's jump to the most obvious trend. The game has grown peak volumes. We see this every launch of a league with the big trailer and the announcement and all the marketing. This game is generating, on average, higher bursts of players, right? At the beginning of last year, they hit their all-time high, 157,000 players at launch. And then the best part about that is that the minimum players only dropped to 44,000 players at the minimum. Like, that was the lowest average player count in that league. 43K. Wow. This game retained 100. Like, that's a very healthy average range right there. And a lot of the game's history, it's funny. I actually played like around here. And then I stopped playing. And then I played on console for a bit around here. And then I haven't really played Path of Exile since. That's neither here nor there. I just wanted to commentate that I was actually playing the game when it was much more of a niche title. I can't believe it. But when they released the Labyrinth, I kind of lost interest in the game because the Labyrinth is such a freaking... I just hate the Labyrinth, I gotta be honest. It really, really turned me off from the game. And anyhow, it's neither here nor there. Let's talk about the trends, right? Now, people have said Path of Exile has never really died from competition. Well, yes, you see the retention numbers like starting in 2018. Look at this. Look at this. 81, but we're holding like 45 to 40. Like, this is interesting. We have these plateaus, 75K, and then the dip. Yeah, that's a pretty bad dip, but then boom, they hit a big spike at the end of 2018 going into 2019, and then like we start to see this trend where they hit these high peaks and then there's a pretty significant dip, whereas before the dips were much shorter, like much more shallow. You see that? So the loss of players respective to the launch was less volatile back in the day. Like average players, median players were still filling the servers for a lot of the league's lifespan. But yeah, it's still like a 50, 60% drop. Then you see the drop off just grows significantly, but we're still hitting roughly, we're trying to get above 30K here at a minimum, right? And they are 33, 40, right? They get to 33 again, but at 40, then here they had a drop 25, 24. Fine. This was kind of a dull period. I forget what it was exactly. But then, 2020, we start to see some like real signs of like retention, right? You got 117, pretty good back in the day, and then 41, 39, 38. We're retaining like 30 to 50K of our players over a healthy part of the league's lifespan. That's impressive. And by the way, let's see what was the competition back then? Nothing. Okay, so listen, I want to talk about this quickly. The competition argument, what game has truly competed with Path of Exile? Grim Dawn is single player focused and much more niche, doesn't have the marketing or the presence. Create Entertainment is a small studio out of Massachusetts, and it's a true indie studio. Not going to compete with a Tencent owned company. Fine. So, Grim Dawn's like back here. Like Grim Dawn's in this area. They're not marketing, putting out YouTube trailers, and that's not competition. Diablo 3, we already know. A large, the niche audience came here from that game. Torchlight 3? Again, you compare Runic back in the day to Tencent-owned GGG, not competition either. It's more than Grim Dawn, but it's not in the same league. Diablo 2 Resurrected during a scandal? During a scandal. That's not going to be real competition for this audience. What else? Marvel Heroes I played Marvel Heroes. Comic book themed. Truly MMO. Different general audience. More character-based, roster-based sort of game, right? Not what PoE is. Wolfson Lords of Mayhem, the game that never got out of beta and is just buggy as hell. You think that's competition with like 3 devs working on it? No, these are not competitors. Guess what is a competitor? Yes, this is. This is a competitor. It has been out for years. It is a hit in Korea, and now it's coming to the West. It has cinematic graphics. It has big, massive attack animations, these very colorful, artful combat mechanics. It's going to make Diablo 3 look like 3 generations ago. And you know what? It has enough of the crafting, farming, building mechanics that would appeal to a PoE player. Not all of them, but I feel like, we're down the players who have left from this peak, like 30 to 40,000 of the players in these graphs. You know what? Be on the lookout. Elden Ring, again, people say, well, Souls never killed off Path of Exile. Look, Souls games have come out and Path of Exile has only gone up. Yeah, but you have to understand something. Why do you think people leave this game? This is the part. And again, as I said, we didn't really have a period where competition was coming out proactively. We had little games here and there and little indie studios coming out with stuff. Look at this. Ultimatum. A disaster. Chris Wilson, I have a quote from one of my old videos. Chris Wilson said, "We don't want half of our players reaching endgame content. That would be bad. We want most of our players to not complete the game, and we only really value those who are smart enough to progress." And the way he said smart enough, invested enough, you know what this is code language for? No lifing. Grinding our game and losing all of your freaking muscle mass. Losing all of your sleep. Losing years of your lifespan because you are grinding our game. That's what that quote meant. And it's true. If you are a no-lifer and want to progress, yeah, we care about you because you're going to be a zombie playing our game. And you're more likely to spend on the microtransaction store. If people don't see the agenda here, it's clear as day. But this league just killed the momentum that was happening, right? And even then, look at this drop. 28K? 28K? Now here's the kicker. The most recent league, Scourge, there was some, reestablished confidence. Like, people like, oh yeah, like this league sucked. GGG will bounce back. They hit a pretty good high, not as good as the start of the year. And look at this. 19K. Oh, but Cyclone, January is a slow month in gaming. Dude, it's not a fucking excuse when the Januaries before had almost double the fucking players. Like, in hindsight. Like, look at this! 41K in 2020, January 2020. What are we talking about, guys? Like, this is a disaster. You need the sequel so badly for this game. And now, my confidence couldn't be lower. If this game does not break 140K for this next expansion, it might. There's rumors that they're going to be introducing some spell buffs. But GGG always has caveats, and they always have conditions to everything they do. They want to gate your time as much as humanly possible so that you never reach that next level, that next benchmark. And then you have to use third-party applications to get any further. It's really designed to stop players from progressing and forcing you to re-roll and rebuild to hope that you get to the next level. But in reality, most players just trade away their power and use third-party tools. We all know that. The no-lifers and streamers, you have to A, use a meta build that's proven by the no-lifers and the number crunchers. And then B, you have to no-life the shit out of it. So there's like 3 ways to play solo self-found in the league to get to the bosses. And then in that time, you have to spend thousands of hours as a self-found player. Who in this graph is going to do that? Maybe 1,000 players. Maybe. But most of these players here, trade for their power. But look at the number. We're down to 19K. This bleed off is horrendous. And any fan of Path of Exile should be voicing for changes. The sequel needs to come out. That's the answer.